Show on PLZ Soccer's YouTube channel. I'm Peter Martin, Alan Ruff, Tam Cowan and Richard Foster here with me, and thank you to you for sticking with us and of course showing your support on a regular basis, not only for the football show but for all our unique video content and downloading the app as well. As ever, we've got a little quiz question for you to tease and give you the answer at the end of the programme. We've got our ongoing competitions which we're going to be doing all the way through to the summer, giving you the chance not only to subscribe to the channel but to win yourself some goodies. And I think we've got a happy Rangers fan from last week, and who knows what we'll get. Maybe your son or daughter would like to win the Match Attacks package that we have now.
PLZ Soccer has teamed up with Match Attacks to give you the chance to win this fantastic box of all your favourite Scottish football stars. We're also throwing in a starter pack and 2 multi-packs to give your boy or girl the perfect start to their collection of all their favourite SPFL players. To win this fantastic prize, all you have to do is answer this simple question: who is the current PFA Scotland Player of the Year? Post your answer in the comment section below, and to double your chances of winning, all you have to do is subscribe to PLZ Soccer's YouTube channel. Good luck.
Wow, yeah. Wow, double whammy.
Kids would love that.
Well, not only that, you get a box and a starter pack.
Yeah.
The whole thing's all yours.
Well, I'll tell you what, and some were scoffing at the time, a couple of years ago, it was either Mull Player of the Year or the Hall of Fame. There's a gentleman I know, and I'll not give him a free advert here, but he's involved in a football sticker company, right? And a prize that he put up that night was a completed sticker album.
Yeah.
And you want to have seen the bid in it. You know, it brought back, I think, everybody was in the hall, it brought back their childhood when you were always scrabbling about and you needed 7 to complete your book, or you needed the Norwich badge. You know, that was always a hard one to get.
Yeah.
But he just says, is that any good to you? I says, absolutely. And it was all these folk revisiting their youth. No, I was auctioning it, you know, and everybody, you know. And I did another 3 in the boot of my motor, roughly.
Brilliant, I've heard that before. The other good thing about it, Ruffy, is I've got my completed 1974 World Cup. I mean, that is worth a few quid.
Yeah, I would say so, right. I mean, it goes quite far back as well, with some of the stars that are in it as well. It's in pristine condition.
I spotted on the internet the 1978 World Cup sticker album, and that's about 350 brick. So you're in it as well, with another one of your hairstyles, a variation on the mullet, but it's still there. Delighted to get Richard back with us, Ruffy. I didn't think he was coming back after we suffered pelters last week for our factual appraisal of some court cases. He went to Philadelphia, hanging about with Rocky, and missed all the hullabaloo. Yeah,
well, fortunately we've got somebody on the show now that sort of splits the 4 of us up, or the 5 that were sort of designated as season ticket holders.
Absolutely, you missed the fact we had a group of supporters who worked out we all had season tickets and we had boxes at various grounds. Tam, that's the joy of football, isn't it? That's what's great about you being a Motherwell fighter.
I thought I'd caught out all these guys be sleekily buying a season ticket since 1979, but they still caught me. You know what I mean?
I have to tell you, by the way, somebody did say, and we're not falling for Tam Cowan as a Motherwell fan. You can't win, as they say, but nevertheless, we always like to try and give you an opinion. You might like it, you might not, but we'll also read out some of your opinions as well. We'll love to do that on the programme, providing, of course, you can put it across in a decent manner. And with that in mind, Tam McManus has said to me we must get the T-shirts now printed, which I'm going through. This show is not for you.
That's a good idea.
So we've got to get them. We'll be giving them away to certain people. But thank you for subscribing. Lots to talk about. What did you make of the semi-finals? You were actually over in Philadelphia. Just as a wee insight, were you over there at some kind of coaching convention?
Yeah, it's the biggest kind of coaching convention in the world. It's basically all the coaches from all over the States kind of head to the one area, and then there's a guy over there who is a Scottish guy and has been in the States for a while, but he kind of gets a Scottish contingent and kind of bolts onto the side of the conference.
Is this Eric?
Eric, yeah.
Yeah, it's my pal.
Aye, yeah. He did mention that a few times when we were there. He also mentioned a few stories which are not for this show.
Was Jack Ross there?
Jack Ross was there. He was.
He lasted the whole weekend, or did he get punted?
No, he was Saturday night.
You're a bad man.
He was very good with that.
I nearly got him there.
He made a few jokes himself regarding his last post in management. So he seems to be over it now.
Is Kenny Brannigan there?
Yeah, Kenny was there.
Yeah, what a great lad he is.
He's a funny guy. There's no airs and graces with Kenny.
Oh, absolutely. Listen, by the way, if you ever wanted somebody to play behind you as a centre half, Rothy, I'd take Kenny Brannigan every day of the week.
Yeah, I've heard the stories about Kenny. Yeah, he's certainly a player that you would need. I don't know if the five-a-side pitch would be big enough for him, but
yeah, no, good lad. Was it worthwhile?
Yeah, it was. It was good. It was, to see something on that scale. It was pretty impressive. And then obviously you make a lot of connections of guys who are still over there and guys who have been over and are now back here. But it was good experience.
Yeah. Okay. What did you make of the semi-finals first and foremost? Because we're going to get your thoughts on it. Because first of all, I think the key issue, terrible pitch to play on. Yeah,
I mean, it's the west of Scotland though, isn't it? It's going to be. And there's been a lot of rain even for us here, so it was always going to be tough. They probably, to speak about what Tam said before, they probably do need to look at, kind of maybe changing the makeup of the pitch. Can you go part hybrid to try and stop the collection of water, albeit there was a lot of it. But it's not good as a spectacle when that's it's your national stadium. It's two semi-finals of one of your cups, and the pitch looked terrible.
Yeah, here's the statement that came out after it, because obviously everybody was more than a little upset with it all. The SFA and the SPFL have discussed ways in which we can mitigate the ongoing inclement weather to optimise the playing surface for the Viaplay Cup final next month and forthcoming international matches at Hampden Park. The inclement weather conditions, allied to the fixture schedule being dictated by a Winter World Cup, contributed to the underfoot conditions during two otherwise exciting semi-final ties. While significant work was completed in late October, enhanced pitch maintenance provision is being investigated to ensure the best possible surface is available for the remainder of the season, notwithstanding the sustained forecast for more rain and challenging weather conditions. Well, okay, that's what I call the classic PR to avoid any real criticism on it, Ruffy, because you know these semi-finals are coming up. You know there's a showpiece. We know there's rain, especially in January. So, are they basically making excuses for the shift due to the World Cup? Because you can get heavy rain in November.
Yeah, I think it all falls down, and obviously Queen's Park used to play there all the time, but I think they've only been on it once since they moved. They're playing at Stenhousemuir, so it's not getting played on every fortnight or whatever. We know the rain is there, but I don't understand why the two games have to be Saturday, Sunday. I think when you know that weather's coming, why would you schedule two games, back to back?
Bear in mind the folk that run our game at one point were talking about playing two games like that right after each other. Remember that?
Yeah, absolutely.
So I wouldn't necessarily leave them in charge of that decision. But I'll say two things about it, Peter. First up, tut the Hampden ground staff for not switching off the rain when it started in October. Yes. You know what I mean? I mean, we've had rainfall. It's been record amounts of rainfall. So I feel a wee bit harsher when I go MD connected with the pitch. The other thing I'll say, I thought the two semi-finals, watching them as a neutral, I thought they were absolutely brilliant, and I wonder how much the conditions and maybe even the pitch had to play in that. I would have sooner just focused on the games themselves and said, you know what, irrespective of what the playing surface might have been like, and indeed did that add to the spectacle, plural. I just thought they were two cracking games. And we, taking the first one for example, Celtic Killie, let's be brutally honest, we probably said it the previous week in here, me and my pals had been sitting at the Motherwell Ross County game, and wasn't it a classic? Of course, swirling, horrible rain even coming in at you under the stands. We think you're covered, and we were going to cross the road for a drink to watch the Celtic Killie game. Yeah. And in your head you immediately think Celtic score first. This is done, this is over, or if Killie don't score first, no chance. And that's the way it did pan out. But far from the game being over, it was brilliant. I mean, Killie for 20 seconds in, they had a great chance, and they kept going and going. And then, of course, you had all the controversy with the claims for the penalty, etc. It was just a great game.
No, we're not speaking about that because it's only Killie. So
right, well, exactly. Sweep under the carpet. That's that. But yeah, so that was great. And again, the game on Sunday, yep, the pitch wasn't great, but. And I bet it surprised quite a few folk. What a cracking game! What a cracking. A contest actually that folk maybe thought wouldn't have been a contest.
Well, it was competitive, but the one thing the SFA don't have is they don't have £1 million to put a hybrid pitch together.
No, they don't. It was more the length of the pitch. Obviously it's going to be soft because of all the rain, but I think if you cut it down shorter, now I know you're maybe loath to do that because this time of year the grass doesn't grow back, but it's not getting played on every week, so it's not going to turn into Firhill last season. So I think it looked like it was really long, which certainly slows teams like Celtic down because you're kind of trudging through the heavy pitch. But yeah, they don't have the money to change it. But moving forward, is it something that all of Scotland can invest in terms of, if you're wanting to make your national stadium the best pitch in the country, phone Motherwell, get their groundsman on the phone and also put a bit of money into it?
Well, I think they need to do that, but coming out of this, I think there's a lot of, I'm cutting some slack to the SFA on it and other clubs as well who had invested, and then post-COVID they're looking at their finances and thinking we're still in a painful situation, Ruffy.
Yeah, I know. But we're trying to assess it all, there's nobody playing on it. We know the weather's bad, there's no doubt about that. And as a groundsman, we're not professionals and, that looking after a football park, there must be some reasons why, but we'll get internationals coming up. And we can't be seen to be playing in parts like that with international games.
The one thing I did notice actually, and it was something that's synonymous with artificial surface, is the fact that when they did actually play any diagonal into a corner, because it was so heavy, that ball didn't skid away. No. It kind of held up at times. Yeah,
it definitely had an impact on the game. The pitch, but you get these kind of varying weather conditions in Scotland all the time, and that's just you just have to get on with it and play on it. It's not ideal. Everybody wants to be playing on a bowling green, but that's not going to be the case for large parts of the season in Scotland. But I do agree with Ruffy, because there's no games on it, you'd expect it to be a little bit better. I don't know why they don't just essentially put a big tent over it. You don't have to heat it, just to keep the rain off it.
Yeah, it's a possibility as well. They used to put big blowers on.
I'm looking for a job. I'll go in and stand underneath it with the wee poles up.
Yeah. Well, of course, if you've got the spare money at times, Ruffy, out come the heat lamps and everything, and I have actually at St Mirren, would you believe, they had the big dome where they put, the kids would go in and play 5-a-sides and 7-a-sides in there. The semi-finals themselves. Couple of things. Ruffy's obviously feeling really. Have you got your bit of paper?
No, you left it in there. We had a discussion the other day about the first goal. When Lafferty tries to put it back in, Maeda reportedly comes off his chest. But I had a photograph, and I know photographs aren't 100%. Yeah. But it looked as if it came off his hands.
Yeah. It didn't seem to gather any great pace, that argument. But at least you brought the newspaper in to try and highlight the fact you felt so strongly about it. Secondary to that, the one that really did cause a bit of consternation, which all of us were absolutely flummoxed, was how Kelly never got a penalty. It's
an incredible decision. How the referee doesn't see it at the time. And then how the VAR don't think he's made a clear and obvious error. The Kilmarnock player's been speared in the back by a guy who weighs about 15 stone. He's going to go down. He can't. He doesn't know what's coming. He's actually looks like he kind of stoops himself to. He's going to jump for the header, and then before he can, he just gets clattered in the back. And it's a penalty all day long, and it's ridiculous that it wasn't given. Yeah.
After it, Tam, we should have had another summit.
Well, the thing is, you won't, because it was against Kelly. I spoke to a Kilmarnock fan on Monday, yesterday, who, tongue-in-cheek, I hasten to add, he's saying, I'm delighted the penalty decision was against us and not against Celtic, because we'll not hear anything else about it, because he knows, in fact, role reversal in the back of everything else that happened with VAR and what Ange Postecoglou had to say about it, and Callum McGregor coming out and saying we're owed maybe 3 decisions. If that same thing had happened in the other box, dearie me, we'd be hearing about it from out of Kingdom Come. But it was pretty baffling. What you've got to say right away is that I think, over the piece. You couldn't deny that Celtic deserved to win the semi-final. I don't think there's any doubt. But that penalty instant, those sort of chances, and I know if you're watching Motherwell against Celtic, watching Motherwell against Rangers at that stage of competition, those are the wee sniffs, the wee chances that you will get, and those are the ones that you really, really need to make count, and you need to have the decisions go your way. But it was astonishing why it wasn't a penalty. Again, if it'd been the middle of the park, I know it's very easy to say, but if it had been middle of the park, I personally think without hesitation the whistle would have blown, and that was it. And everybody, no matter who you support in the stadium, no matter who you're cheering for at home, would have thought, yeah, foul, aye.
Yeah, I mean, Tam mentioned the fact that there were two games, well, maybe not classics, but certainly there's a bit of excitement and tension in the air. I thought the second game, Rangers-Aberdeen, was the better of the two.
Yeah, I agree. I thought Aberdeen played really well for large parts of the game. Scored a very, very good goal. Miofsky, great finish. And then inevitably Rangers kind of come back into it. Thought they were slightly better in the second half, but it was a pretty even match. I think it's poor defending for the second Rangers goal, the Roof goal. I mean, I think Matty Kennedy gets done in the wide area, but it's defenders now, and it blows my mind. The guy's going, and you can see he's going to cut the ball back.
Yeah.
And they drop towards their goal and just leave the striker. Now, see that space you're now standing in? That's not going to score the goal, it's the striker. So it's like you get so close in those moments. But then Stewart absolutely does them in. He does his own team in, because that is whether I think it's a red. As soon as it happened, I was like, it's a red. When you see it again, it's a definite red for me in today's game, certainly. But what are you thinking? You had a real good chance there of getting to a final, because they played really well in the game, and they still had half opportunities when they're doing it 10 men. But what a baffling decision for your captain to go into a challenge like that, and it ruined Aberdeen's hope.
Yeah, okay, so now it's going to be Celtic against Rangers. We'll hear from Michael Beale today on the programme, and Ange Postecoglou as well. We'll hear from David Martindale, because we've got midweek fixtures and the card to look at, and here's the 4 games that will whet our appetite. Celtic against St Mirren, Hearts take on Aberdeen, Livingston against Dundee United, and Kilmarnock against Rangers. So lots to talk about with regards to those games. Just before we get into the meat and bones, let's give you a little quiz question for a bit of fun. I wonder if you remember this man, which it's not that one, which is obviously a question from 4 weeks ago, Ruffy, but the question was, which former Hibs striker won a European Cup Winners' Cup medal with Rangers?
Was it Dennis Law?
No, it wasn't. Shut. No, it wasn't. Okay, so that was the quiz question. Which former Hibs striker won a European Cup Winners' Cup medal with Rangers? So I'll give you the answer at the end of the programme. There's a blank look in your face, Ruffy, which absolutely leaves me gobsmacked.
Hey, can I put a blank look in all your faces? We're going to get an answer to this. I've been unable to get an answer the last 2 weeks in the radio. The Viaplay League Cup. Okay, the final is now Celtic Rangers. If you get into the quarter-finals of that, it was the Premier Sports Cup.
Yes.
And what I'm asking you, in football or indeed any other sport, has a tournament ever changed its name halfway through the competition?
Oh, it's a good one, isn't it? I mean, when you think of a
blank look from me.
Well, it's a sponsor's change, isn't it? I mean, a Viaplay are a company that I think they may be Scandinavian, who bought Premier Sports. So that was the change there. I think they swallowed them up. I might be wrong, but I think that's the overall story for it. But I cannot think of a tournament that changed its name midway through.
Ruffy, think it for the independent bookies, the way they'd be looking at it. Let's say Celtic win the final against Rangers, guy goes into bookies with his betting slip, Celtic 50 quid to win the Premier Sports Cup. The guy just got, I don't know what you're talking about, mate. There's no such event.
I mean, you look at it and you think to yourself, you would have to maybe go back to something like, did the Texaco Cup change its name, or some other sponsor that,
Well, you'd have to ask the powers that be to sign up the sponsorship.
Yeah.
What was the deal initially when they signed? And obviously maybe they, but financially.
Yeah, I know tournaments have changed. They used to contest in your day, Ruffy, the Fairs Cup, which was a kind of a European competition, and then I think it morphed into the UEFA Cup.
That's right.
And then there was the Cup Winners' Cup.
The nearest anybody got when I did ask our listeners for that was somebody said, how long was the Challenge Cup the Tunnocks Caramel Wafer Cup? Remember, Tunnocks moved in for a while, but they still got a full competition out of that, so they didn't change halfway through or anything.
Well, I read an email the other day there, and I mean, no disrespect because it's your club, Ruffy, and I started laughing, but apparently apparently there's a reunion of the Partick Thistle side that won the 10 and 6s.
Yes.
I mean, come on, you're ripping the back end out of it now, are you? If that's the case, I'm getting my old five-a-side team for the village back together.
No, it's legendary at the club.
Yeah.
You know, Jerry Britton's in that team, you know, so they're having a sort of a pie and a pint night for the supporters.
Okay,
You've got
good.
to cling on to anything.
Exactly.
For goodness sake,
And
you
you know
don't
what?
really win every 50
And you know,
years.
right away, even starting with Jerry Britton, you can imagine also, but that'll be a great night for the fans. Where was it? It was one at that time. Was it the SECC?
Yeah, I think it was, yeah.
And no worries over the surface then because it was solid concrete. there was no giving that.
You would never have played that then, Richard, not at any time of your career, no?
No.
10 and 6s. It was brilliant. It was absolutely, you know what I liked about it as well, Peter, if you recall?
Yeah.
It was a totally different atmosphere. I know, long before anybody was talking about family atmospheres and all that, that is genuinely what you got inside, because it was played first, I'm sure, through in Falkirk. Coasters Arena, remember that place,
Yeah,
Peter? Right?
that, yeah.
I'm sure it started there, then they realised this is quite big, this is good, we should get a bigger venue, and I'm sure did it go first to the Kelvin Hall, somewhere like that?
Yeah.
And then the SEC.
Yeah.
It was absolutely brilliant.
Can you remember the big Derek story? Derek Johnson and the celebrity game they had at half time with the Showbiz 11?
No?
And Tam might remember this singer from a way back, a guy called Jez Conrad.
Oh, Jed Conrad.
Jed Conrad
Right.
was a singer and he played in this game.
Jess Conrad.
He couldn't play football.
Right.
And during this game with Big Derek, he just kicked Big Derek all over the place. So afterwards, they're up in the hospitality bit and Derek's had a few drinks. He says, I'm going out and have a word with him. So Big Derek storms out to the boy and he says, hey, he says, you must be the worst player I've ever seen. And the boy went like, you know who I am, who are you?
Aye, Derek just went,
Is that right? It's just one of those lines that just kills you right away. Listen, I like it. It's a great competition. They had a big one a couple of years back, but then what happened?
International one. The international one was
the
good.
international one was silly because, quite simply, they had a huge sponsor who started paying the English players astronomical amounts of money, and I think the whole thing fell on its back end after a while, because the last thing you want to do is start paying players astronomical amounts of money for a game of five-a-sides, Richard.
This is very true, but the way things are going down south, that's probably where their game's going as well, because of the exorbitant money they get paid down there. You know, it's a few clubs have come up for sale, haven't they, recently? So
Yeah.
I wonder if that's the start of the house of cards beginning to fall.
Yeah.
is that a real Gucci?
I'm not even going to dignify that with a response.
Absolutely, because
My wife bought it.
It's a different life, isn't it? It's a different life.
Well, there's so many.
This is can I tell you the truth? This is a fake Matalan.
The amount of people that say to us, can you get Richard to tell us what's the sponsor on his sweatshirt? And some people are obviously moving into gear now. Ruffy Gordon McLean skating. Ruffy wouldn't know. He's never played in Europe. Which I beg to differ.
Yes,
You have,
I
haven't you,
have.
Ruffy?
Yes, I have.
How many games did you play in Europe? You played with Thistle in Europe, didn't you?
Hey, we played Honved.
Yep. Who did you play in the Celtic against?
Honved.
Oh, there you are. You had a great good run, didn't you?
Oh, that's a good thing. That's a great bit of
We'll
trivia.
do that tomorrow.
Yeah, absolutely. That'll be the tomorrow's quiz, and we'll somehow link it back to Dennis Law. So let's cut to the chase. There's 4 games that you can look forward to. Celtic against St Mirren. Of course, all the speculation seems to be Giakoumakis. Is he going? Is he staying? What's happening with it? Ange Postecoglou said nobody's out at the moment, but he did mention the fact that nobody is guaranteed starting.
I've said in the past, you can have guaranteed game time, but you won't play for this club or any big club. You know, guaranteed play time, you know, you can get it at a club where maybe they're not as strong or not competing for trophies, but that's not what these players want. They want to be the best and they want to, you know, win every competition. Well, to do that, they understand you need to have a strong squad and they need to compete for places, and that's what they're doing. If at any point, you know, a player is not happy with that or wants more game time, well, you know, there's only one way to do that, and that is, you know, train hard, and when you get your opportunity, do well and present yourself in the best possible light, or you can look for other, you know, opportunities elsewhere.
Yeah, so if you want to start regularly and you're not good enough, beat it.
Yeah, but I mean, most players, Richard could probably answer this better than me, most players want to play all the time.
Yeah.
You want to be involved, you want to keep, you know, your fitness up, you want to, if you're playing well, you know, you want to continue, you know, and get better. You know, I think dropping out for 2 or 3 games is just not the way I would do it. But the game is modern now.
Yeah.
We saw it with Alan McGregor last week. He dropped him out because he thought Dundee United were going to be firing balls into the box, which he thinks isn't Alan's strength, and then lo and behold, he's in the semi-final.
Yeah.
So there must be some method behind it. It's just whether you buy into it.
Yeah, I mean, right now, because, as Rafi mentioned there, the game has changed. It's now all about 14, 15 players who are going to have to contribute in a game.
Yeah, it is, but you still want to be in the starting 11. And, you know, when you hear Postecoglou talk about put Giacomakis there, he has done well every time he comes in. He inevitably scores. He changes the dynamic of the way they play because he's a physical presence. It gives them an aerial target in the box. And I think he has done well enough, but he obviously doesn't fit exactly with the way Celtic want to start the game. And that's all, the pace of the game. You don't get the same running power from Giacomakis as you do from Kyogo, certainly. So I think to start games, they want to start in a certain manner, and it probably doesn't suit Giacomakis as much as it suits Kyogo or Maeda, so he doesn't play as much, and because he's doing so well, he will attract interest from other clubs.
Well, the only problem I don't have with it, Tam, and we're not privy to it, and this is something that Richard, not to the same extent, I think, Ruffy, from your own point of view, but Giacomakis, the figures they're talking about, €3.5 million, suggests to me that he clearly was signed on the basis that there might have been, an incentive for him to get a better cut of the deal elsewhere. There's something, sometimes you just don't know what's in the clause of an agent with a club to try and influence them. Celtic are trying to influence Cho Gu-sung or Cho Gu-sung to sign for them, and they're giving, the selling club and the player this option of the sell-on greater than you would normally give a player.
Aye, well, first up, if it was €3.5 million for Giacomakis, I think I'd bite the hand off MD for that sort of money. As he showed at the weekend, I think he's one of the worst defenders that Celtic have in their team. Very clumsy, kind of bomb scare material, so, but removing tongue from cheek, I would ask you, why is it that whenever I look at Giacomakis stories online, every day all the Celtic fans immediately say Peter Lawwell, Peter Lawwell, Peter Lawwell? What's the connection there? They seem to be pointing a lot of fingers at Peter Lawwell over any talk of this guy getting a move. What's the story?
Well, I don't think it's linked to the new chairman who is coming in this month. Not quite sure when that starting date is, or if he's just kind of a sneaked in under the radar, Ruffy. But I don't think it's a case of. I think there's some Celtic fans actually getting to a point where they're thinking, well, if Peter Lawwell's back, and when you and I are of the opinion that he never went away, then they're going back to the old way of late transfers, battering clubs into submission with, we want this figure, or you're not getting them, or we want to buy this guy but we're not budging from this figure. That for me would belittle Michael Nicholson's position, and strengthen the chairman's position again back to where he was before, and I don't think that's the case.
No, we don't know it's the case, because we're not privy to what's happening behind the scenes. But I think when we start talking about £3 million, £4 million, or euros, or whatever it is, it's an awful lot of money. That and I would expect negotiations behind the scene. You would need somebody there who's been in that position before to negotiate with, because everybody's trying to get the best deal. And it's up to them to get the best deal for Celtic. And whether you just don't want it to slip away. You don't want to be the guy that should have pushed it over the line, but
how much did they pay for him?
It was about
$2.5 million.
Right, so they're making him $1 million, and they're 9 points clear at the top.
Yeah,
of
but
the league.
He scored goals. He came as one of the top.
Well, they've got other guys that will score goals. They're not in Europe now, so you could argue they don't need their best players to beat the opposition put in front of them. So if they're going to make £1 million, Celtic, like every other club, is a selling club. The club admitted that themselves a few years ago, and that is the model that they go for.
No, I get that. I buy into that. We were just saying we're not privy to, Richard, sometimes a deal suddenly hits a certain figure. Maybe some people thought Giacomakis, they might have got maybe 4 or 5 for him because he's come in as a top scorer from elsewhere. He's scored goals in this division, so his transfer fee might have gone up. Maybe it's a situation where they had an agreement with the agent to carve this one up in such a way that we get him, and if we're going to sell him on, or we've made a promise to him that if he scores this amount of goals he gets this amount of wages or whatever, because the ultimate story that's dripped out over the last month or two is he wants more money, and Celtic ain't prepared to give him it.
Well, yeah, and you know there are so many different things you can put in contracts. After a certain amount of appearances, players get their contract goes up, and like you say, it might have been right, come for this wage just now, and then after 20, 30, 40 games, whatever it is, you'll go on to this, you know, an even better wage, and it could be a drastic rise. Therefore, Celtic are kind of thinking we might want to sell him now before he hits that target, or it could be like you say with the player himself and the agent going, look, if we get an opportunity to get sold on, we're going to make a lot of money from this deal. So they're maybe pushing it themselves. But he seems to, I mean, he's put out there's that kind of when he put up the, you know, the scale thing, the tweet or the on his Instagram, and it was kind of weird, as almost as if he had started the ball rolling, you know, a couple of months ago, leading up to the Christmas time. But it could just be that he wants more game time. It could be that he sees himself as the main man at Celtic and he thinks he should play. You know, players, and myself included, you do become, you know, kind of wrapped up in your own world a lot of the time, and you become selfish, and you also become a little bit arrogant and go, well, I'm better, I should be playing. It could just be that. But if Celtic are going to make money on him, they invariably do with players that they bring in. And Ange feels that he can either get someone else in or he doesn't need them till the end of the season, and I expect him to go. Yeah.
Just briefly on this, guys, you know, because we're going to hear from James Forrest on it. VAR, since it's come in, and now in the last couple of 2 or 3 weeks, I mean, we had the debacle at Rangers Aberdeen where they announced it's no longer being used to the end of the game, and then VAR is back. I thought we would have an improvement after the World Cup. What's your take on it?
I think we've had a change in the decisions. You know, the handball decision has changed in terms of what gets given and what doesn't. I think there's been a change there. I couldn't understand, you know, the VAR's there, then it's not, you know, if it goes off, just leave it off. You know, and tell it, oh no, it's back on, and it just makes the game a bit stop-start. And even then, with some of the decisions, we're sitting here kind of perplexed as to why certain decisions weren't made. So I don't know. I don't think it was always going to come, and it's always going to have problems and little niggles here and there, but I don't think they're ironing them out that well. And I think that the World Cup was a good time to kind of go, right, let's try and improve what we're given, let's try and improve the way things are done, and I don't think they've managed to do that.
You know what, Peter, and I think we mentioned this last week, and I think the time is right for it now, and a lot of fans would like it, managers, players, etc, etc. We know that it's foolish and it's never going to happen to have the referee front and centre with a microphone under his nose right after a game. That's not going to happen, right? But the VAR person, right, is distant, sitting out in a van somewhere effectively, okay? And he hasn't been involved in the rough and tumble of the game. I think what would be great would be to get a very short statement about the most contentious decision of the match from the VAR guy. Now, I thought it was bonkers for a start that we even unveiled who the VAR chap is. I didn't think there was any need for that, okay, you know, because it just plays into the hands of the conspiracy theorists right away, you know. So, but if they're going to announce who the guy is, let him make a statement, a short statement at the end of the game, and let's use, because it's probably the biggest one of the week, the Celtic Kilmarnock non-penalty decision. Just let him come out and say why that the referee in any scenario, forget even that one, in any scenario, why the referee wasn't given the nudge by VAR, or why the referee just waved play on, or why the referee ran over and gave his decision in the back of looking at it again. Just a statement like that. Well, that would be it. I mean, what else can they do?
Well, I like that attitude.
Just a lack of communication.
We suggested the rugby thing, which is quite simply, let's hear from the ref, let's hear from the VAR, similar to rugby, Ruffy, and I think that would clear it up immediately on the park.
Well, we clear it up for the players. And are you talking about getting right tannoyed out the whole ground? In the rugby, they just say to the captain, look, this is the reason I'm giving this, so get back. I don't mind that. The players been told, you know, because I think the players now are just shouting for everything through desperation. You know, every ball that hits something, you know, have a look at that, have a look. And I said to you the other day, you know, now I saw it at Tynecastle, and you're saying, oh, they've all got them in the dugout. They've all got television screens now where they watch it, and then they all analyse it, and then that was, and then they jump up and they're away at the referees are hiding to nothing.
Yeah, not to promote another show, but we've tried to do something similar on, you know, the Sunday night, to give an explanation as to why certain, you know, using an ex-referee, why certain decisions are given.
Yeah.
But if you go back to the Connor Goldson one, it doesn't matter. When clubs are presented with facts, the laws of the game, why referees have came to certain decisions, if it goes against the old firm, they don't care. They still question it and they still talk about it for weeks. So even when you're presented with the actual laws of the game as to why the decision was or wasn't given, they'll still contest it.
For the sensible fans, for the sensible managers, the sensible players, just quite a short, concise statement at the end of a game, just to hopefully clear up what the referee stroke VAR perspective was on that instant. That's all we're asking for.
No, I accept that. I don't want to get into a prolonged argument with you, but just because somebody quotes a rule doesn't mean that's not what's causing the consternation. It's the interpretation of that rule. Everybody looks, a normal person looked at the game Man United, Man City and said, Rashford's offside. And then the next guy comes in from his left-hand side and fires the ball into the back of the net. People are up in arms.
Yeah, but if you were to listen or to hear from the VAR guy, he'll tell you about, I don't believe Rashford's interfering with the ball. I don't believe certainly doesn't touch the ball, so it's not an offside. But then people will still go, but he's definitely offside.
Well, he affects the goalkeeper. He affects the defender who looks and says, he's miles off, I'm not going to bother running with him.
I completely agree with you, but that's our opinion. What Tam's suggesting is someone just giving you the reason as to why the referees give a decision.
Why, according to the rule book, the decision was given.
Yeah.
And then you can't, if folk want to argue after that, that's up to them. But you know what, here's another point, Peter, and we definitely mentioned this last week, but not with this chap. Pep Guardiola, when he came out, you've got me into watching this English football now because I'm getting so upset with VAR, but after that, Pep Guardiola came out, obviously a wee bit of sour grapes, obviously bad loser, etc, etc, and his quote was along the lines of, I don't know the rule, but I know where we were playing, as if bias, Old Trafford, Man United. But it was the first bit, I don't know the rule. How much is he creaming in for football every week? And he doesn't bother his backside to know the rules. Well, it's extraordinary.
No, but with all due respect, by the way, he's not alone, because managers, players, a lot of us have to have a rule highlighted on a weekly basis, but that's not the issue that I think we're all peeved at. Somebody can quote the rule, but it's how the referees are interpreting it and the consistency of how they're interpreting it that's annoying everybody.
Richard, the next time you're sitting with Stuart Donald, seriously, right? Drop into
Stuart Dougal.
Stuart Donald's the guy who used to cut my hair before I went Turkish barber.
Well, could you ask him a few questions as well, by the way?
Next to Tinderbox at the bottom of Highborough Road at Byers Road, you know what I'm on? Wee salon was there. That's bizarre. Stuart Dougal. Next time you're talking to Stuart Dougal, what was I going to say? If it's been the back of a manager coming out and saying, who clearly doesn't know the rules, just drop into the conversation with Stuart. See, in your day, Stuart, when the managers were all invited along to the seminar, the referees seminar during the summer, what percentage of them turned up? And it'll be interesting to see what Stuart says. They were all invited, but they never bothered their backsides. They were interested in knowing the rules.
Yeah, absolutely, I get that, because their job is to try and manage a winning team.
And if you ever see Stuart Donald, don't get that white hang on your hair again, all right?
I was going to say that. James Forrest is fairly philosophical on it. The Celtic winger reckons it's going to take time.
Well, obviously, you see all the top leagues and everyone's using it. So I think them getting it into Scotland is a good thing. It's positive, but I think everyone has to kind of understand that it's going to take maybe a wee bit longer to maybe get the decisions right. And so no, I think it's work in progress.
Yeah, work in progress. And while they work out,
VAR to get that.
What?
You don't need VAR to get that decision at the Kilmarnock Celtic game. You should see it with your own eye. We said at the World Cup, we said
a long list of them. Why don't we just continue, Ruffy, now on the situation of we're all going to be punching each other. Certain fans are going to be calling for everybody to be banned from every club if you offer an opinion. Why don't we just keep that pub fight going at the moment until somebody sorts it out?
You know what, Peter? We're in a democracy, and they always call football the people's game, don't they?
Yeah.
What if we had a vote on this in Scotland? And we said, you take a representative maybe for every club or a supporters club, or you poll the individual season ticket holders, whatever. You then take a similar poll with the players in the top flight and the managers, and you say, you know what? If and however way it comes out, that's what we'll go. If everybody say no, we like VR, we want VR, we keep with it. But if the majority says get rid of it, we get rid.
Well, you could do that. I love the fact that you're so naive to think we're living in a democracy. But nevertheless, that's for another programme.
Hearing these politics.
But we'll move on, because quite simply Rangers are going down to Rugby Park to take on Kilmarnock, and we sent our intrepid reporter Adam Binney to find out what's happening in the Rangers camp.
Thanks, Peter. Well, there has been plenty of chat about the state of the Hampden Park pitch at the weekend when Rangers took on Aberdeen in their Viaplay Cup semi-final. But this Wednesday, Rangers will take on Kilmarnock on an artificial surface, which has also been open to plenty of criticism from some of the league's top teams. So we asked Michael Beale at this afternoon's press conference which pitch is actually worse.
I prefer to not have them, but a lot of the generation of younger players now have come through playing on AstroTurfs in academies or via school football anyway, so it's more the older generation that moans about it. Ideally you wouldn't have it, but I understand why we do in Scotland as well, with the weather and the finances involved in the league. It's something that I try not to make a big thing about. It's just, we just want to play the games. Obviously, Kilmarnock's home form of late, 1 defeat in 9 is very, very good. So whether you want to read anything into that, because the 1 defeat was against the other team that play on artificial surface. So it does advantage, does go to the team that train and play on it every day for sure. But no excuses. We need to go there and play. You know, it's going to be a slightly better, truer surface than the one we played on Sunday evening.
Rangers are still working hard behind the scenes to land some January transfer signatures. Todd Cantwell has been a name that the club has been linked to, and we do know that there is official interest in the Norwich midfielder from Michael Beale and his staff. So the manager gave a little update for everyone regarding their pursuit of Todd Cantwell.
Listen, there's no update right now, but I'm really pleased with the way things are moving. So I suppose no news doesn't mean bad news. You know, everyone's on the same line, everyone's moving in the right direction. That's not specifically talking about that player, that's just in general in this window. What we're trying to do, I believe that we're moving in the right direction towards it.
Well, I think Rangers fans will be waiting and hanging on his every word. They want to see players in before that window closes.
Yeah, it doesn't matter what team you're at. You know, fans just love a new player coming in. You know, and everybody's waiting to see the calibre or the quality of the player that he's going to be in, because that'll be the kind of players that the fans will want to see in. You know, it depends. There's a level of players that you bring in. Sometimes you spend 4 or 5 million on players. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. They don't seem to be in that bracket. They seem to be just trying to attract players who have got past form or whatever they've seen, and they can grow into it and sell them on for more money.
Yeah, well, I think they're distancing themselves from the potential link with Tom Davis at Everton. They will need to bring in some players to obviously strengthen his side. He's looked at it and he wants to obviously tweak it in his own style. I feel sorry for some of the guys that have been out though, because, I mean, Kemar Roof, he's going to see a specialist. I mean, he's had absolutely no luck, that boy.
Yeah, I think, you know, some players are unlucky. Some players, their bodies are not suited to you know, the training every day and playing every week, or playing two times a week. So it's just, I think it's one of the aspects of professional football that people don't realise. You know, yes, you have to be skillful, you have to have the right mindset, but your body has to be able to cope. And it's a shame for Kemar Roof, because he's definitely a quality player, but he hasn't played anywhere near the amount of games he would have wanted to in his career, because he's kind of been done in by injuries. But like I say, some players are just not built to train every day and play every week.
Okay, Hearts against Aberdeen. Who's the third best team in Scotland, Tam?
I think you could put the names in a hat,
yeah.
Peter. I think we're at a stage now. I would maybe just say Hearts, but you get the feeling I wouldn't have them in my coupon anyhow. I think all the teams can beat each other.
I think Hearts. I think they've done remarkably well to get to third in the table. Bearing in mind they had the European campaign, I think if they hadn't had that, I think they'd have been far away in third place. But I think they're the third best team, and I think they will remain there until the end of the season.
Yeah, I think they're up there as well. I think they're up there because Aberdeen and Hibs are showing no consistency whatsoever. You know, I think the star team of the year has been Livingston, and if you were, I know nobody's won anything just now, but if you were to put me on the spot for the manager of the year, it would be Davy Martindale, as it is now.
Oh, well, wait a minute, January the 17th, throwing a grenade in
I'm
early.
saying nobody's won then, but I think for what he's done this year with the resources he's got, I think he's up there with the big boys.
Well, I'm glad you said that, by the way, because David Martindale reckons...
Is he coming in?
No, he reckons that nothing has been handed out just yet, and he reckons there's a long way to go.
I genuinely don't read too much into it. It's a marathon, it's not a sprint. I've been on the flip side of that, sitting 12th in the Premier League last year. People say, no, you're sitting 12th, do you look at the league? I don't pay too much attention. I take one game at a time and I see where it takes.
Well, I understand where Ruffy's coming from, Tam, because he's been the star man at times, hasn't he?
Okay, and I could listen to him all day. And if he's got a wee spring in his step, particularly as he clearly has now, then I think he's just brilliant value when you hear him in a post-match press conference, or indeed when you had him in here. That was outstanding stuff, you know. So yeah, they've done very, very well. And again, when it all boils down to money in football, and again, there's another thing that we never really put much focus on at the weekend. Just how well Kilmarnock and Aberdeen did against Celtic and Rangers when you look at the huge financial gulf. And again, I've said this for long enough, Peter, we only seem to hear about financial gulfs whenever the old firm are getting toyed with in Europe, and it's like, well, what chance did they have, you know? Never seem to hear it in a domestic front. I wonder why. But yeah, so Killie and Aberdeen did very well, but you know, you'd even wonder when you look at the finances, if it's almost miraculous that Livy are even in the top flight.
Yeah, absolutely. I think as a manager, he puts a lot of people to shame. I think some clubs, when they're eventually hunting for a manager, I don't know if they're scared off by his back story, but I think somebody should have a look at him. He's got something.
I agree. I think from you know, obviously being a player recently and looking at him, he just seems honest. You know, he is. When he talks about the game, the way the game went, he reads the game pretty honestly. When they're good, he tells us. When they're poor, similarly, he says the same. And you would imagine that's the way he is in the dressing room. And that's one of the things that as a player you want to play playing every game. But if you're not, you want the manager to tell you why you're not and be honest with you. And so then you know what to go and work on. And he just seems to have a way about him that the players respond really well. You know, a lot of players go to Livingston with all respect and probably play above their level. Yeah. You know, and then therefore they get the results they do, and they're like fourth in the table just now, which is even at this stage of the season is a fantastic achievement. But I just think he just seems, like I say, he just seems like a good guy. He seems like as a player you would get on with him. You hear him at the side of the pitch, and he's screaming and he's loud, and that's the kind of management I've grown up with. You know, this kind of softly approach is not for me really. I like the way he conducts himself, and I love the way he conducts himself in interviews. Yeah,
I think you would never have been able to play for Glen Afton under Ruffy, because Ruffy's not one of those throw the toaster and give it the hairdryer, were you, Ruffy?
Never had a toaster.
No.
Glen Afton didn't they?
Is that the only club you managed?
Yes.
Glen Afton. And genuinely, because everybody thinks big genial Ruffy, always got a wee twinkle in his eye, always has a laugh. What genuinely were you like in the dressing room in the back of a bad result?
Probably different for Richard's talking about. I was just man management, more individual, dealing with individuals rather than the group. We do like group obviously at training, but in match days it would be explaining to people why I picked you and what your strengths are, what your weaknesses are, that kind of thing.
Okay. Was there ever any physical?
Yeah.
No.
I left that to big Alec Kennedy.
Yeah.
So you've never done any physical acts in a dressing room?
Never.
No, remember, by the way, there's a 22. There's a 21. There's a 21. You're such a. Honestly, I'm going to kick your head in. Really.
Memories.
There's a 21-man punch-up in a game against Hibs and Rangers, and he's the only one not involved in it.
Up the other end. That's the way you do it.
Listen, something did surprise me though, was Charles Dunn, who's a St Mirren player, who actually was at the game with I mean, look at this. He's at the semi-final with an Aberdeen top, obviously showing a bit of solidarity with one of the Aberdeen players that he played with in his earlier career. I'm not sure it was a wise thing to do, because quite simply the St Mirren players were not happy with it, and they held court today to take him to task over it, and this is what happened.
Well, as a journey, hearing both sides, which I have to say was a very well thought side from Mr. Olasanya. Some good points about obviously Charles Dunn's credibility as a person. I think there's no doubt about that. He is a very loyal guy, but unfortunately the charge was he loyal to this football club? And the question that the prosecutor asked was, did you think about your teammates at the time when you put on? Charles Dunn's answer was no. The jury can only find Charles Dunn as guilty.
Tuesday breakfast for everybody, and McDonald's full breakfast with coffees ordered to the training ground for players and staff.
There you are, Stephen Robinson. So he's got to buy everybody at McDonald's, which will now prompt a barrage of people going, the players can't be eating McDonald's in the morning, it's not good. But well done to them for taking the sting out of it, Richard.
Yeah, I think you know that's what dressing rooms are good for. You know, you do something like that and you kind of wear another team's shirt. Then there's always going to be, you know, fans are going to react to it, but the players in the dressing room, it's good that they've done that. And I'll tell you what, it's a cracking suit, by the way, he's wearing it.
It is a belt.
And he still wasn't successful on as a player.
How nice to see Declan Gallagher on that side of the courtroom as well. I know, a refreshing change.
He took
I have to tell you, though, only certain people can get away with that type of suit, Ruffy, down through the years. I mean, it's just not something. It was a brave suit that he actually had on. It was just lots of people always, you know, on our feed always mention, you know, yourself and your marriage to Amy. Which is why they obviously think, you know, the best of gear that you've got here is fantastic. I was wondering, Tam, if you were a footballer like Richard and you could marry a pop star, which one would you, through history,
Well, if I was a footballer like Richard, I don't know they'd be queuing up for me. But you mean if I was a top player?
If you were a top player, which pop star would you like to be?
Let's be honest, it's not my football ability that she's married me for.
Well, you played yourself down by me. Listen, I know people give the right arm to have the career that you've had. Carry yourself.
This'll age me as well, but I always had a wee thing for Cheryl Baker for Bucks Fizz.
Right, that's an interesting one, Tam. You caught me on the hop there. Ruffy, I know Gracie Fields is no longer with us.
I quite liked the girls who sang The Lion Sleeps Tonight.
Hold on,
Tight fit,
we want people that were not achievable. I've gone for Debbie Harry.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. What about you?
Our dad was a good singer.
Kim Wilde. Yeah, right. Okay then. For the benefit of our younger viewers, Marty Wilde was our dad. We've got a Twitter coming out. Our man Adam is on Twitter and TikTok as well. So there's a wee TikTok. We've been answering the question: who is the best player in Scotland right now?
Is this all Cosy McManus? Is this all due to him coming out with the Kevin Nisbet the other day? Is this all due to him? Yeah.
We thought ourselves would have. I mean, he said Kevin Nisbet. Right now, just on performances, overall the best player in the whole campaign is slightly different.
It is, but if you think, like, you know, Kevin Nisbet's playing really well, but is he at the level of, for me, Callum McGregor? No.
Right.
And with all respect to Kevin Nisbet, I don't think he can reach that level because I think Callum McGregor's by far and away a better player.
Easily justifiable.
And I think although he's missed a lot from injury, he's came back into the team, and I think he's just done what he does all the time. He just controls the Celtic midfield, he controls games. And for me, far and away the best player in Scotland.
Ruffy, who did you pick?
I went for Maeda, just because of his energy that he gives to the game and he scores goals.
Even when he handles the ball and you've gone to get a paper out of the...
Yeah, but he never did.
I noticed you never brought the paper in, by the way. You didn't feel that strong in case the Celtic fans were calling for you to be banned.
It's only an observation.
Ban Ruffy.
Can't afford to get banned at two clubs.
Yeah, absolutely. Listen, you can take it in the chin. I actually have gone for Cameron Carter-Vickers because of the here and now, but I agree with you, McGregor's by far the best. Tam, who was you?
Yeah, I had my Claret and Amber tinted glasses on. I went with Liam Kelly, and the points that he's actually garnered for us this season could prove vital. You know, I'm that way. I'm starting looking at, even starting tomorrow night, the other fixtures, you start being very, very selfish and looking at other games about who you want not to win, to keep them down our end of the table. We're at that stage of the season, I'm afraid. But I would go with Callum McGregor.
See, just before you go,
yes,
there's only one person on this couch who might be able to save the day for this next little piece that we put out. Ruffy and I headed off to McTears today. I want you to have a look at it, by the way, right? Because it's coming up on the 3rd of February at McTears Auctioneers. It is just a fantastic shirt. If I had the money, I would certainly be buying it, Ruffy, to get it into the collection. You never know, if I was married to a pop star, I'd probably try and influence them to buy it. Ruffy and I went out to McTears today to catch up with the guys who are getting ready for the ultimate strip that's going to be auctioned. Well, here we are at McTears Auctioneers in Glasgow with what I would consider, Ruffy, the holy grail of Scotland football shirts. No disrespect to what you've achieved yourself, but Jim Baxter's shirt from the 1967 game when Scotland defeated the world champions.
Yeah, I think iconic. I think anybody remembers that day. You'll remember obviously the goals, but more importantly, Jim Baxter keeping the ball up in this famous strip.
Yeah, absolutely incredible. Of course, England were the world champions, Ruffy, 1966. So this was this unofficial battle between the old enemy, and we put on a show. Yeah,
I was just looking at the programme there. That was the England World Cup side who won the final that turned up on that day, man for man. So it was an incredible feat for the Scottish team.
Yeah, of course, when you look at the goal scorers in the game, Dennis Law, magnificent, Bobby Lennox and Jim McCalliog.
Yeah, and they'll be remembered as well for that occasion. And I was looking at the programme, 7 of the team were Rangers and Celtic players, which you don't get now.
No, absolutely incredible. And of course, over and above that, Ruffy, I think Jeff Hurst got a late goal along with Jack Charlton to make it a little bit nervy, but it should have been far more comfortable. I've had a chat with Dennis Law before, and I've watched countless interviews, and he said, we wanted to actually hammer them and humiliate them, but Jim wanted to put on a wee show.
Yeah, he certainly did, and I watched clips of that game. It could have been more than 3. There was lots of chances, particularly with Jim McCalliog, but this is the one here.
Yeah, number 6 on the back. It looks absolutely magnificent. Of course, Ruffy, I've brought a few quid with me. You've got your chequebook with obviously still you've got the money from your signing on fee at Partick Thistle first time around. I don't think we're in the market though, because they reckon somewhere between 40 to £60,000.
Yeah, it's amazing, and anybody who goes to that amount deserves everything, and it'll be wonderful in a glass casement, somewhere in somebody's house. It won't be in one of our bags anyway, so the security in here's too good. So no, it'll be a wonderful occasion on the day.
It's steeped in history. Jim Baxter, one of the greatest Scotland players, of course. So many people look back at his career with great fondness, not only for Rangers, but at international level as well. He's played some great games for Scotland, but this one in 1967, when Scotland defeated England in their own backyard by 3-2. I wonder which lucky collector will have enough money to get this into his football collection. Memorabilia, I just love it, Ruffy. This one is one that, I wish I had enough money.
Yeah, I wish I was in when it actually goes to the auction, because I'm sure it'll be interesting to see what parties are in the audience to try and get it.
Yeah, it's in good nick as well, and it looks great. It's held up well. It's been at Rangers Football Club for over a decade, and it's in mint condition. So at the start of February, when the auction starts, everybody will be probably just hanging on the auctioneer's every word, waiting for the quick gavel to go down and somebody to realise that they've got a little bit of Scottish history. Jim Baxter, the number 6 shirt, the one he wore playing keepy-uppy against England in that 3-2 win, when of course we declared ourselves the world champions. What do you think of this shirt? Give us your memories of Slim Jim as well as that Scotland side on the day. Were you there? That's a shirt and a half, 40 to 60 grand. Tam, I thought your point was great there.
What's that?
Do you think that maybe be the ceiling point in this generation? There's generations who still remember it and hold it in high regard?
Yeah, I think whoever gets it this time, that may indeed be you can't see it being sold on again, so you would hope that a proper memorabilia collector will get their hands on it, how much they have to pay for it. But I've always got a smile on my face when I think of Jim Baxter's jersey, because way back in the day, I used to see Jim Baxter quite a bit down at Shawfield Dugs. I used to race the Dugs and owned a few Dugs. underdogs, and Jim was always great for a blether and all the rest of it. We were very, very lucky years ago to get him on a show with us, and then not long before the great man passed away, I was at a football dinner that I'd gone to with the paper as a guest to them, and Jim Baxter was the guest of honour, and lo and behold, what came up in the auction, but here it is now, ladies and gentlemen, Jim Baxter's jersey from the 1960 game when he played, right? And Jim Baxter leaned out to me and says, you know what, damn that wee Fife accent, he says, I must have been a better player than even I thought. I think I was wearing about 12 jerseys that day, because everybody seemed to have a Jim Baxter, so I hope they have done the checks. That better be the real deal.
The only reason I'm saying to you that this one has been authenticated is because, quite simply, they swapped shirts. And the shirt actually, in the end, was with an England player, Alan Ball, and it then made its way back to Scotland through various people. So that's how we know it's authenticated. But it's a lot of money, 40 to 60,000 for what I think is one of the iconic moments. You know, you look at Aberdeen's 83 team, Rangers 72, Celtics 67. International 67. These are iconic ones in our country.
What do you think would be the next icon Scottish jersey that would get a lot of money?
I think Faddy's left boot for Paris.
Yeah, or the top. Or the top.
He's got to save that.
Yeah.
Goalie should save that.
It was weak.
I would go for Archie Gemmell's jersey.
Oh, that's
78?
yeah.
Oh, yeah,
If he's
absolutely.
still got it.
Well, I also think somebody who would look for anybody who got a hold of, even though it was a losing one, I hold it up, a Rangers UEFA Cup from 2008, any of those shirts that come up, a Celtic from 2003, even a Dundee United from 1987. If you get them and they've been to a final as well, they're so rare to get a hold of them, you know. But the winning ones are always the special ones.
Yeah, they are. I mean, I don't think I could ever buy, a football shirt from anyone. One, I don't have that kind of money.
No.
Two, it just wouldn't mean enough to me. You know, all those things you spoke about, they're all before my time.
You're either the sort of person, I mean, see the amount of stuff, some decent stuff as well, by the way, that I've maybe had for Motherwell. Maybe you've done a wee event from, and they've said, oh, thanks for that, Tam, and they give a wee replica jersey with your name, or they give you, so I've got a wee model at home, for example, that we got of Levante's stadium when Motherwell played Levante out in Valencia. Cracking wee thing, but I just gave it to my mate's boy. And you either collect things like that or you don't. You know what I mean? So, but good luck to whoever gets that. Yeah. And I just hope Mr. McTeer doesn't say it and I've got another 3 in the back of the boat.
Well, we started with it. We might as well finish the show on it. The answer to the quiz that we put up at the start of the programme wasn't Dennis Law.
And
it was quite simply, go on.
Steen.
Colin Steen. Did you get? I mean, Ruffy, I can't believe. Yeah, I can't believe you didn't get that.
Say Kenny Miller.
Oh, God, Kenny Miller in a European Cup Winners' Cup. Well done, Tam. Colin.
And just before we go then, since I get that right, allow me this, because we won't have time to ask the fans, the players, the managers, etc. So keep or kick VAR, if I just asked you a lot. You keeping it or kicking it?
Keep and sort out the handball rule.
Keep, right?
Kicking it.
Keep. Right, there you are. Thanks for watching the programme today from Tam, Ruffy, Richard and myself. Don't forget, hit the subscribe button.